everyone, and welcome to the October 7th Season 2 episode of Ask Us. I'm Jean Smart, today's host, and I would like to acknowledge my workplace. And this broadcast originates from Point Grey at UBC, and it's the ancestral and unceded territories of the Musqueam Nation. Our producer today is Nan Doe. Hi, Nan.
Hello, everyone.
Today's Ask Us format is an interview of 7 panel guests, and the audience has also sent in some questions for the guests, and we will have considerable time to ask questions from the chat line. So Nan will be monitoring that, and we'll announce some of them. Our topic today is on professional certification, and the question is it time to get certified if I am working in clinical trials? The answer is a resounding get certified, which is the title of today's web show. This is a special edition, a longer edition of Ask Us on the examination process and experience of preparing and writing a professional certification exam. We're focusing on SOCRA and ACRP. And first off, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about those 2 organizations that Clinical Trials BC supports. The Society of Clinical Research Associates, SOCRA, as it's nicknamed or acronymed, established the certification program for clinical research professionals, CCRPs, to create an internationally accepted level of knowledge, education, and experience by which clinical research professionals will be recognized in the medical research community. SOCRA offers a course on CCRP designation, and this is the same certification across all professional lines. So there's roughly a 70% success rate for candidates that write. It's a US-based exam, so if you're involved in US trials, this is a really great option. The SOCRA accommodates paper, pencil bookings, so you can book an exam at your site. You can host it. They do home proctored exams and exam writing at centers. So you have 3 different options. There are 2 test centers in British Columbia. If you choose the center option, there's one in Vancouver and one in Nanaimo, BC. You can book your exam dates first come, first serve, and it's about 6 weeks ahead. The second association that we support is the Association of Clinical Research Professionals, known as ACRP, and they award credentials to professionals involved in all aspects of clinical studies, trials, who have again demonstrated the knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform ethical and responsible clinical research. So the ACRP exam dates are set dates. It's a range, and they run them in the spring and fall. So the next one is the exam dates are between February 15th and April 15th. So you have a 2-month window there. And the registration opens really soon for the next session. It opens on October the 18th. And I think you have until the end of December to actually register. So these exams with ACRP are internationally based, and you take them from the convenience of your own home or office. They have multiple designations. So these are designated by professional practice. So for professionals, you get an ACRP-CP designation. Clinical research coordinators get a CCRC. Clinical research associates get a CCRA. PIs, they have one for PIs. It gets you a CPI designation. And then they have newer in the program, 2 new specialty designations that can be taken after you've done a baseline one of the previous ones I mentioned. So they have one for medical device, and they also have one for a project manager specialization. So check out both the SOCRA and the ACRP websites for more information and the designations, and definitely check out the benefits of membership. So now I'd like to introduce to you our panel of recent graduates of both the SOCRA and the ACRP certification exams. These 7 people will be inspiring you and providing you with information on the written and virtual exam structure and environment, share useful study quips and tips, and they're also going to provide you with access information and some great resources for exam success, along with information on available exam funding and application grants. So let me introduce you to our panel today, the graduates. First of all, we have Tracy Wong from Island Health, and her job title is Research Compliance Facilitator, and her designation is ACRP-CP. Chelsea Stunden is the BC Children's Hospital Digital Lab, and she is the Research and Evaluation Manager. Her designation is ACRP-CP. Jessica Nelson is from BC Cancer Agency Canada's Michael Smith Genome Sciences Center, and she's a project manager there. Her designation is SOCRA CCRP. Tara Martin from Chaos and Clinical Trials Network is the project manager there, and her designation is ACRP CCRC. Tatiana Kawakami is with Numinus Wellness Inc., and she is the new clinical research manager there, and her designation is ACRP-CP, and she recently obtained her PM designation. I think that was just last week. Robin Tkach is with Clinical Trials BC. Welcome to Clinical Trials BC, Robin. She's the new project coordinator, and her designation is ACRP-CCRC. Putri Ramaputri is from, sorry, I said that wrong. Putri City is from Fraser Health Authority. Sorry about that, Putri. And she is the new Clinical Trials Management System Coordinator, and her designation is SOCRA CCRP. So welcome to all of our graduates. I hope you're all ready to inspire our audience. And again, congratulations to all of you. If this was a live audience right now, they'd be applauding, and I certainly wouldn't need to hold up a sign that says audience applause. Okay, so are you ready? Shall we dive in and unmute? The first, I'm going to be doing some targeted questions. The first one is section is on preparations. And I want to start by asking you about your preparations for the actual getting ready for the exam, that is studying. What was the time commitment? What were the study plans? Did you have study groups? What kind of stacks of materials did you have? What was the study place? What were interruptions like? When I go around, can you just remind our audience which exam you were preparing for and what your study experience was like? So I'm going to start with Tracy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jean, for the invitation. To remind everyone, I have completed the ACRP-CP, the Certified Professional Exam. That was written in October 2020, and it was a remote experience. Started studying approximately 2 months out from the date, and I'd be about an hour a day early in the morning before the family rose, so there were no interruptions. And with regards to resources, just as outlined in the handbook, I've just photocopied the ICH guidance if I didn't have it already, and started to pile through there with going through lots and lots of questions. So that's my study prep.
Okay, thank you. And study prep, same question to Chelsea.
Hey guys, my name is Chelsea. I also did the ACRP CP professional designation. And for me, I originally attended one of these sessions actually in the beginning because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do ACRP or the SOCRA exam. And if you've looked at the materials, the SOCRA has a lot more material to go over. So when I came to this, I decided that I wanted to do the ACRP. And I left a couple months for myself to study from when I signed up for the exam, but I actually got deferred quite a few times because of COVID. So yeah, so my study like sequence was definitely a little bit up in the air. So it's hard to really narrow down how much time I spent because it was kind of like back and forth. And I read the guidelines first, and then I used the ACRP learning management system, which you can get access to from the Clinical Trials BC website. And I did a bunch of learning modules, and then I looked to see kind of where I was lacking, because they also have a quiz at the beginning where you can see like an overall quiz of like 100 questions to see where you rank with the different sections of ICH. And then I focused my studying on the ones that I didn't do as well on with the actual guidelines.
There's an interesting approach. Okay, and over to you, Tara.
Hi, my name is Tara Martin, and I also wrote a CRP exam, but I did the clinical or certification for clinical research coordination. And I studied, I would say, approximately 40 hours over about 6 to 8 weeks, kind of spread out, a lot of cramming in the end, because I wanted to make sure that I got as much information in as possible. I found the CT BC professional development ECOP tools first, and I immediately went to the resource videos. I did everything twice. So I've watched all the videos in the beginning once, a quick run through, and then I read the ICH document and historical background once. And then I got a bit more serious as I got closer to the exam and kind of rewatched the videos and printed off the slides and made some popcorn, took some good notes. I found watching it the second time around, I actually picked up more details and tips and notes that I wasn't paying attention to the first time. So I found doing everything twice was really great for me to reinforce my memory and learning closer to the exam. So I started sooner than I usually would for an exam, just because I wanted to have an easy time getting through all the material and knowing how much time I had to do it again a second time before the exam.
Great, that's a very systematic approach, Tara. It's just so you. Okay, and Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I wrote the SOCRA CRP exam, and I did this a couple of years ago, so that was about 4 years ago. And at the time, Clinical Trials BC and CHAOS had put together a studying group for a lot of the professionals around the various areas, so St. Paul's and BCCH and BC Cancer. And so we had a formal study group that met every Monday. It was really good because we did our chapter reading, and then we come together and kind of talk about it and think of questions that we would get asked on that material. So it made it go quite a bit easier. And we also had the sit-down exam. So we had a booked exam at the end of the study group. So it helped keep us all on track and get our readings up to date for that. And yeah, so it just kind of kept a consistent pace at studying the manual and going through the materials.
I should mention to you, thank you, Jessica. And I should mention to you that Jessica is the author of 2 of the major modules in the Clinical Trials BC ECOP. And Jessica did the modules on the US exam content. And also she did the class marker, which we're going to talk about later. Tatiana, studying and prepping.
Thanks, Jean. My experience was a little bit different from what we've heard so far. I booked my certified professional exam only 2 weeks in advance with full intent of sitting down and studying for that, but life got in the way, and I actually didn't get to open any of the guidelines until the night before. So I did do a run through the questions that were available, test questions that were available through BCHSN website. I found those to be really helpful in helping me to navigate what to focus on in such a short period of time on the guidelines. And I also found it to be helpful for my own benefit to focus on the section that a lot of people usually skip through, and it's the glossary. especially for ICH E6 R2, just to, again, systematically have known the difference between what's an audit and what is the monitoring and what's an inspection and quality assurance. So yeah, that was my experience of preparing for the exam.
That's a great and interesting approach, the CRAM method. So it's good to know that the Clinical Trials BC ECOP is good for cramming as well. I like that. I guess that life does get in the way. And Robin, you're studying and hopefully not cramming experience.
No, not quite as rushed. I did the ACRP-CCRC exam. That was pre-COVID. So at the time I studied in coffee shops and libraries, and it was quite posh in retrospect. Now I believe I'd probably be doing it like Tracy. I'd be up early in the morning, getting the studying in before the kids got up and family life came in. Yeah.
Okay, and Putri.
Yes, so I applied for the SOCRA exam in mid-February 2021. I thought I was going to start reviewing the material in March, but I ended up reviewing everything like about 4 weeks before the exam. So first I read through the guideline and also create an outline on Word document, so I can kind of like connect between different sections of the US federal CFR, because like there's the 21 CFR part 312 and then like there's the 45 CFR part 46 that are like very similar. So in my head I use the outline to connect the two like similar points and like what are the differences, as well as when I was watching the recordings on the ECOP, I paid attention to the timelines, because there are different timelines in terms of like when to submit the SAE report and things like that. So like creating the outline and then the timetable helped me to kind of memorize the things that I need to remember. And then I did a lot of practice questions from the class marker, as well as some of the practice questions that I got from my previous hospital that I work at.
Thank you for that, Putri. And we have had a lot of really positive feedback on Jessica's US content on the ECOP. She does a fantastic job and a nice little table about the timelines. And we've had just oodles of positive comments on that. So if you are writing the SOCRA exam, go and check out Jessica's tables on that. Okay, so let's focus in on resources. A couple of you have made some comments and mentions on resources. I'm gonna bridge this and circle right back into Jessica. Jessica, can you tell us what about this class marker?
Yeah, so the class marker was kind of born out of this study group that we had assembled a couple of years ago. Part of what we were doing is we would all come up with questions that we would ask about the various sections that we were reading for that day. And we're getting this pile and pile and pile of questions as we went. And so I went looking for something to put them in, and I came across Classmarker, which is a teaching tool. They do online exams. So you can enter in your questions and you can randomize the questions. You can assign them to different sections. So we put all the questions in Classmarker and assign them to the various sections. And then we were able to generate these kind of random test quizzes. So you could do 50 or 100 or 200 questions to get practice across various sections. And so we used that tool when we were in that study group, and we found it really helpful. We also found it very helpful to go through the material and think about what questions you could ask on that material, because it was a really good key in, and we're like, oh, well, they're obviously going to ask about this because 5 people in the room have now come up with a question based on this one subject. And yeah, so that's where that came from, and we found it to be a very useful tool. All the questions in there are generated by people who were studying at the time, and then people since. So people have contributed questions going forward as well.
Yes. And I know that Tara has contributed quite a number of them. Thank you, Tara. And other people who we always ask, if you've had an experience, send in 1 or 2 so we can make sure that we're on the mark. And I guess one of the big benefits of having the class markers for those of us who have not written an exam in a really long time and need to go through, quickly do multiple choice. This is one of the benefits of class marker.
partly it's just getting into that practice again of doing that multiple choice. The questions like that they ask in the exams, they're not too hard, but you do need to keep pace and keep on your timing.
Okay, I'm also going to circle back to Robin. Can you tell us, and a couple other people have mentioned about the Clinical Trials BC Professional Development ECOP and what a learner might find there?
Yeah, so the ECOP is where you're going to find the recorded training sessions, slides, all the documents you're studying from. There's the class marker created by Jessica and the modules she's created on the US content, the SOCRA exam. So you can find that by going to the Clinical Trials BC website. You could just search for ECOP when you get there, ECOPS for Electronic Communities of Practice. Also available through the Clinical Trials BC website is the ACRP LMS that Tara mentioned, and that gives you free access to their e-learning catalog that has a whole bunch of training resources, and included in that is practice exam questions for the ACRP exams.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know about that piece. Thanks for mentioning that. And Clinical Trials BC pays for provincial access to the ACRP webinars. And tell me the acronym again for that.
It's LMS for Learning Management System, where you can just enter e-learning catalog, ACRP, on the Clinical Trials BC.
They've had fabulous reviews, and I've visited them recently, and there's a couple really good ones. I'm sure they're all really good. The ones I visited were excellent. Okay, let's swing around and talk about the actual exam. Let's talk about the structure, the format, the types of questions. Please let us know as we go around again which exam and which you did, whether you did it in person or remotely. And I'm going to start back with Tracy again.
So again, I did the ACRP-CP and it was remote. The resources that I was using, they're already mentioned. Really take note, the E family that's highlighted in the ACRP handbook, definitely hands down. There is word for word information coming from the questions right out of those guidance. So a good read, and thinking about some areas that they may be asking questions, that would be extremely beneficial. Can't say enough about the ACRP e-learnings, as everybody has mentioned. There was also a search that I did through the internet, oodles of like GCP quizzes that there's a European pharmacy group that put out a GCP, and it was just like massive amounts. So no shortage on test questions out there. And also with ACRP, there's like a 20 or so freebie questions that come with your registration. So those are helpful to go through. The other piece is I went and gained membership with ACRP, and what I found was amazing was the community discussion. There's always calls for, hey, is anybody going to come into a study group? What are you studying? Asking a lot of questions. I'm having a problem finding this content. So wonderful to be an ACRP member and have insight into those community discussions. The last thing I would say is what was not helpful is with ACRP, there's a detailed content outline, and it is knowledge for a CP, for a certified professional, the knowledge they should have in these content areas, and then the task potentially that you would perform. It is heavy, 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 and I would use it as a career pathway development further resource in that situation, but I would not use it as a tool to study by. The ones outlined by everybody else, I would go with that. Thanks, Jean.
So zeroing in just a little bit for the exam, did you find that the questions that were on the ACRP website that you're referring to, were they like the questions and the format of the actual exam?
Absolutely, Jean. There is, when you go through the ACRP e-learnings, you will figure out very quickly that there is a theme underlying all of those modules. It's the investigator oversight, it's patient safety, and it's data integrity. It is huge, and you will see it throughout those e-modules, and you'll see it through the exam. Just keep that in mind, because that guides you on many questions.
Okay, Chelsea, talk about the structure, format, and the types of questions.
Yeah, just to echo what's already been said. So they were all multiple choice questions on the exam. And I also used the e-learning management system and found that they were basically like duplicate questions with new words in them. Sometimes even like the same question that I did in the e-learning management system. So I was like, sweet, I know this answer. Yeah, and so that was really helpful. That was probably my most helpful study tool, was just doing those e-learning modules and then the quizzes. And if I got questions wrong, then going back and learning why that was wrong and that sort of thing. Some of the questions I found hard on the exam were ones that were asking about flow charts on like who to report to first for certain situations. I kind of knew I had to report to so-and-so, but I didn't know that I had to report to like this person technically first, because like in practice, I kind of do it all maybe at the same time. So yeah, so then that was something that I just didn't pay as close attention to in the exam. But otherwise, I think most things have already been said.
Chelsea, that was really helpful because we've heard that comment before in the past. I'm just thinking way back, maybe not last year, but the year before in 2020. And we definitely heard someone talk about reporting lines and that there were several questions on both exams on reporting lines. So correct channels of communication might be a good focus item. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, and Tara, your thoughts on the exam structure, formats, and types of questions.
Sure. I wrote actually 1 year ago this week online, and it was during the pandemic. It was my first ever proctored exam, so I've never experienced that before. And I think we all kind of know now what it's like when you get into your exam. You have to present your ID on a video camera. You have to be inspected. Your space has to be examined with a portable camera to look under your desk, behind your ears, to make sure you're not using any audio devices to cheat. You have to be in a secure room. You have to make sure that you have no interruptions or anybody entering your exam. So that was a new experience and a little bit intimidating. So if we can all speak to that a little bit more, because that was a little bit unexpected for me. But my exam was structured for ACRP for 3.5 hours. There was 125 multiple choice questions. There was a training demo, which takes about 15 minutes, and it's very useful. So I suggest that you go through that. I answered everything in about 2 hours, I would say. I felt there was plenty of time left to go over things. Within the exam, there's a lot of cool tools and things that you can use. One of which is there's a cross through or strike through feature that you can eliminate answers to questions that you know right off the bat that this is not the one, so that you can get down to the. I always felt there was two answers that were kind of closer together that would be the right response. And so you can strike through. You can also flag your questions if you're unsure and you want to go back to them. There was an electronic calculator in there, which was helpful because I did not bring a calculator. And you're allowed to bring a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, to the exam. So I would take that opportunity to do that if you can, because I felt there was 1 or 2 questions where I could have really used a piece of paper, but I was like, I didn't have that in front of me. So I was relying on my mind and making a calendar in my head for scheduling something. But that's all I have.
Very helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Very helpful. Still focusing on the actual exam, I'm going to switch over to Jessica. Any comments on the actual exam?
So I did the more traditional style. I wrote the CCRP in like a class setting. It was a book or pencil and paper kind of exam. It was pretty standard. We had a whole 3 hours to do it. It only took about 2, so you had lots of time. The CCRP has a chart review part in the exam. or we did in this paper copy. So we got not only the Scantron, we got a booklet for taking notes, but we also got like a dummy chart. So it was just clipped papers together. And we had to use that chart to go through and answer maybe half the questions, but I'm not sure if they're still doing that because a lot of that has gone on. Oh, Puti's saying no, that we don't do that anymore. So yeah, so, and some of the questions I did find were so easy that I was second guessing myself. And you're like, this can't be that easy. And so you have it marked and you're going back and you're like, no, it's probably this easy. So there are definitely a couple of questions in the exam where it is quite obvious what the answer is going to be. Yeah.
Thank you for your input. You always, there's a couple of veterans in here that have been doing this for a really long time and, clearly made the 2-year experience requirement for both exams. So I think that I've been hearing from veteran or people that are taking the professionals that they are the ones that are second guessing themselves, whereas the new people coming in, they know, yep, that's it. So
yeah, I wanted to interject there as well to say, yeah, they were way more common sense than I thought they would be, because I've been doing this for a long time, took a long time to get certified. Same thing. It really tests your day-to-day experience. I mean, if you've got that, you've got this exam. I mean, really just don't second guess yourself and go with your instinct.
Yeah, you know it all if you've been doing the job and putting in the kind of regulatory reports. You'd understand those timelines and you know what to do. And yeah, it's just that second guessing because you're an exam you need to get over.
I'm going to swing over to Tatiana, our crammer, and see what the exam was like for her.
I agree. The ACRP does say there are no trick questions, and this is very true. And you are tempted to go that rabbit hole and thinking, well, this is too easy. And you respond to the question, you start reading it, and you know the answer already. For others, in terms of the structure, I found it very helpful that you are able to flag some of the questions. If you go down that path and you just freeze in your tracks and you're not really sure if you're understanding the question correctly. So that was very useful. And I think, 3 hours that you're provided for remote exam is a plenty of time just to get settled and get into the zone when you're writing it. In terms of structure and content, I think their TCO does a pretty good job at outlining the exam content and the percentage breakdown. And yes, if you have the 3 biggest components, safety and data integrity, and your reporting structure, you'll be fine writing this exam.
Okay, again, we're hearing emphasis on the reporting structure. So, okay. So I've never heard of anyone going in cold turkey before to write the exam, but we could send a test candidate in, shouldn't we? No. Okay. All right. Robin and Putri, I'm going to come around to you. Robin, any comments on the actual exam?
Not much more to add. I wrote it, again, pre-COVID at one of the testing centers. So in case it does go back to that for anybody in future, it was a little intimidating at first. Basically everything has to stay outside. You're fully examined. You're not carrying anything on you. Everything's on video. It can be quite intimidating, but the process was actually really smooth. It was fine. Once I was in there writing the exam, it went great. I'd second using I use the flags a lot in trusting my instincts. So if I read a question, it seemed like this is too easy, or maybe I'm not reading it right, or I'll just flag it and then I can come back to it. And that allowed me to go forward, not having to worry about whether I'd gotten that question right. At the end, I had time to go back. I could review all my flagged questions. To double check my calculations, double check if I'd read the chart correctly. And then I finished early. I finished quite a bit early. But because I'd gone back over my questionable questions, I was confident doing so, and it was just fine.
Okay, how early?
At least 45 minutes, I think.
Okay. All right. I imagine that would, you kind of wonder when, when you finish an exam early and you look around, everybody else still writing.
Yeah, exactly. But at least they gave me immediate feedback. And I don't know if we'll get touch on that later, but it came up right on my screen as soon as I finished that I passed. So then I could leave with a light heart.
All right, that's good to know. Okay, and Putri, any comments on the actual exam? I saw you nodding a few times in there. Lost Putri.
She looks like she's frozen.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll come back.
Very
Putri might need to-
happily.
So Nan's gonna, if Putri's logged out, we'll log her back in, and Nan's watching for that. Okay. Okay, I'm switching gears. You guys in the when we were in the waiting room in the green room, were telling me some pretty funny stories about the actual exam writing environment. And I know if you would like to share any of those experiences, Chelsea and Tara both made me laugh. So I'm going to start with Chelsea.
Yeah, so when I did mine, it was like the first round of remote testing when COVID hit. So I was like, I have no idea what I'm getting into. And they literally check everything in your room. Like they were like, can we see behind your ears? I'm like picking up my laptop to like show behind my ears. Like it's pretty funny. And then they also, one of the things is you can't go to the bathroom, which like for me, I was like, oh, I guess I can't like drink any water or coffee like before this exam because like 3.5 hours is a long time. But luckily for me, it only took me an hour. So I wouldn't worry too much about it being like 3.5 hours. And so like going to the washroom is not a problem. But you can't go like during your exam. You're not allowed to go to the bathroom. So make sure you use the bathroom before you come and like start your session.
Good tip.
Yeah. And then they also told me that I could have a piece of paper during my exam, which I didn't know. And they told me that it had to be blank printer paper, I believe. And I didn't have that in my house. So I was like, okay, well, can I use line paper? And they're like, no, you're not allowed. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not using paper then. And I was like, that made me really nervous when I was just starting the exam. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do all these calculations because like I didn't remember ever studying like much calculations. So I was like, oh my God, what am I getting into? But I didn't need it. There's like one small calculation. Then they have a calculator in the actual system. So I just used that and I was good to go.
Okay, good to know. Okay, and Tara, you also made me laugh. And did you want to share your environment experience with us?
Well, sure. At the time, it made me cry, but I went to write my exam and it had passed already. I had not realized that I was booking on a 24-hour clock, and I had booked it for 5 a.m. instead of 5 p.m. When I got my confirmation, I checked it like 10 times to make sure it was correct on the day and that I was going to go write it at 5 p.m. on a Saturday. And because it says 5:00 and it has PST, Pacific Standard Time, my brain saw 500 PST, PM. So I was panicked. I contacted everybody I could. It was Thanksgiving long weekend. I couldn't get a hold of anybody and the testing window was closing. And it was my last opportunity because I procrastinated to give myself more time to study. And I was like, oh my God, I'm missing this exam. I'm not going to be reimbursed. Thankfully, they were really good about, there's an extra 2-week window. I don't know if that can say that behind the scenes. So if you're ever in the situation that I was in, please reach out to the testing facility, Prometrics, whatever, and you can reschedule it for a small fee. And I would highly recommend booking at least more than 2 weeks before the testing window closes in case you make a mistake.
Good tip, Tara. Sorry you went through that, but obviously you passed and graduated. So there you go. Okay, other people, any comments on the test environment? I was gonna look at.
Oh, I can add mine. Sorry, my phone like overheated earlier. So in my house or in the room that I was taking the exam in, I have a TV and a dual screen, and they asked me to like when they did the room tour, they really want me to unplug my TV and my so that was like really interesting. So I had to like go around the TV and just like unplug everything. But it was really interesting. The whole like the check-in process and the testing really only took me about less than 2 hours, and they gave me 4 hours to do the test. Oh, and the other thing, I was not sure what to do when I finished. Like, do I just like end everything and like close everything, or like talk to them, because my computer like froze all of a sudden at the end of the exam after like I submit everything. So that was interesting. But at the end, I got my score. I got my email like the next day that I passed. So that was cool. That was good.
Okay, so good. So good to make sure that you have, and it says your bandwidth is low right now. So I'm sure that you need to be in a really strong place and with good connectivity. So speaks, if you speaks to working, writing in an exam center or a different location, maybe office. Other people, comments on the environment.
You can go, Tara.
Oh, I was waiting for you, Tracy. You beat me to the hand raise. Thank you. I did want to add one quick tip. Being an anxious person and not knowing what to expect and living in a multi-person household, I did put a big note on my door to my family to remind them, please do not come into this room while I'm testing, because I didn't know how long I'd be there, and I even put a chair in front of the door to give an extra layer of protection, because if someone does walk into the room, I think it's an automatic fail.
I heard that, yeah. And you got to hear about Tracy's experience, you guys. Listen to this.
It's all about doors. To carry on with Tara's comment, I'm a talker when I do exams, and I thought, hey, I'm the only one here in the environment, in the room. So I was talking out loud, working through a problem, and my invigilator comes on, and she said, please stop talking or reduce your voice to a whisper. And the reason is that someone can be on the other side of the door, and they can be taking notes, gaining content, questions from there. So I got my hand slapped, which is very uncomfortable being in compliance, as I'm a rule follower. So that was uncomfortable. The other just addition is I had an issue with my webcam. So you use your webcam to show your identification. And what the invigilator actually saw, they couldn't see clearly. So my portable webcam, I used that because we had to look around the room and underneath desks. I had to change it out. And because I had to change it out, I got kicked out of the system. So you have to, go out of the system and come right back in, which takes time. I was assigned a new invigilator, but there were notes within my profile of why I was coming back in. So don't worry if you get kicked out of the system. They are very good at understanding that this happens, and they put you at ease. So, good luck. Good luck.
So you're not recommending the webcam. You're going with the Chelsea method. We're going to call it the Chelsea method from now on. The show behind your ear and show under your desk and make sure your dog's not sitting on your lap, that kind of thing.
Gosh, I would love a portable. That'd be best, but I had to go to the computer webcam. But imagine like manipulating your laptop underneath your desk and your chair. You're setting yourself up for a disaster, an expensive disaster.
I love it that you have a gifted imaginary friend too. I can't wait to meet that person. Okay, someone has their hand up. Tatiana, hey.
Hey, me again. Yeah, I had a bit of an interesting experience, not with this certified professional exam last year, but with the project manager exam this year. Same platform. I had good internet connection. It's the system that didn't have a good internet connection. So about 20 questions into my exam, I get disconnected from the server. So all I saw was a blank screen and a pop-up saying that the connection to server is not available. Trying to contact the support At this time, you're given a ticket and you are 9th or 10th in the queue. So I thought, okay, let me try to log in again. I was able to log in again with an interesting twist. I had to do the check-in procedure from the very beginning. So here we're talking about ID, look around your room, you know, the body check, the things like that. Thankfully, whether it was happening just in this day and I was in the first one, but I had no issues with getting back into the exam. They didn't ask many questions, but that also made me think, how do they know? How quickly did I log back in, right? But that aside, no issues. And thankfully, I was able to restart my questions from the point where I left off. But yeah, be prepared.
Okay. So don't throw your ID away. Make sure it's still outside the door. No putting your ID outside the door. All right. Did we hear from everybody? I don't know if I missed anybody. Did I miss somebody?
I just had something else to add that I remembered. Something else that they ask you to do if you're doing a remote exam is to show your computer with a mirror. So make sure you have like a handheld mirror that you can like show you don't have sticky notes on your computer.
Oh, never heard that before. Anyone heard that? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't know that either. And I was like, thank God I have a makeup mirror.
In the room.
Yeah. Well, they like,
Otherwise
this is
you'd
like
do
during
your
the
room check
check-in.
again.
So during this time, you're allowed to like move and like get things and whatever, like during the check-in. But yeah. So there was a bunch of times where I was like looking for paper and then I was looking for a mirror and I was like, couldn't you have just sent me a list of these things that I needed before? But yeah.
That's probably
So-
because you had the laptop, because I think with the computer, the portable, they also had me go behind my screen well, but because of the laptop specifically.
So they're looking for
Interesting.
clean desk as well.
Yeah. So I ended up cleaning up my desk like 15 or 30 minutes before the exam just to make sure like I don't have any clutters because I was like studying, cramming, like so I have notes all over. But yeah, the proctor was pretty nice enough to like, oh, you need to get something, like, okay, go to the other room, and then like before they do the physical checkup or check. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. So those of you who have never written a remote exam, you wonder if it's easier to sit down and do the Jessica method with the paper and pencil. I don't know. Sounds good. Sounds like you all are pretty, they give you numbers to call in an emergency or if you've been spit out of the system. Okay. I'm going to switch gears here, and I know those of the people that are in the viewing forum here are probably excited to find out a little bit about the Clinical Trials BC funding and the grant application. And I'm going to ask Nan, who is the Clinical Trials BC. He's not only is a producer for this show, he's the clinical research professional, and he's our coordinator and our communication specialist. So Nan, can you tell us a little bit about the funding program?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Jean. So hello, everyone. In the next 2 to 3 minutes, I will be introducing you the Clinical Trial BC Clinical Research Professional Certification Funding Program for 2021. So Clinical Trial BC offers partial reimbursement of $350 towards your examination fees. In order to do that, you need to be working for academic health research organizations in British Columbia. These include health authorities, universities, and nonprofit organizations. We accept certifications from ACRP and SOCRA, and the ones that we are accepting are Clinical Research Coordinator, CCRC, and Clinical Research Professional, CCRP. And this year, we offer the opportunity for up to 20 successful applicants. So how can you apply for this funding program, and what should be included in your application package? First, you need to apply to an exam with SOCRA or ACRP first, and then you can apply to Clinical Trial BC for the reimbursement. You can do so by apply directly to our unit's director, Alison Oath, by email for approval of eligibility prior to writing your exam. Here's her email. You can email her at aoth@pchsn.ca. And in your email, you should include an application package, which includes a copy of your application to SOCRA or ACRP, a copy of your resume or CV, and a letter to Clinical Trial BC stating that why the certification is important to you, how it will benefit you in your role as a clinical research professional, and also about your aspiration in your career path. That's everything from my end. And if you have any questions about our funding program, feel free to send us an email to info@clinicaltrialbc.ca, and we will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nan. That's sort of very comprehensive and gives us a kind of an outline of what to do. I know most of the people here have gone through that program and process. Okay, I'm going to take some audience questions, and I'm just going to look on the chat line, see if there's anything there. I don't see anything. Maybe they're nothing.
Sorry, I think we were answering some of them as we went along too.
Okay.
So if you look under the answered ones, we can rediscuss those.
Yeah. Anything that you would like before we go to rapid fire? Is there anything that anybody would like to comment on or add that we haven't covered that you think is important on the topics of environment, exam, and funding? Any comments on funding?
I got reimbursed quite quickly. The process was really easy. I had sent in my certificate, the confirmation, and filled in a really quick form. And I got it to Jessica, I believe, and returned my payment by check, I think within 2 weeks. It was pretty quick at the time.
Okay. And what about getting your exam results back? Some of you said, I think Robin said on screen that she like clicked in, it was like right there. And what about the rest of you? Was that the similar experience for the other organizations?
Mine was a bit longer just because it was that paper and pencil method.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was. Oh,
go
ahead, Tracy.
Yeah,
mine was the next screen. And then they gave me the score, and then they emailed me again, like a few hours afterwards.
I didn't see anywhere for ACRP or SOCRA. What is the passing percentage? Does anybody know?
I don't think they actually give you a percentage. I think they tell you.
They don't give it to you, and they also don't tell you what you got wrong. So, and they'll give you like a breakdown later on like things that you could study on, but they don't act like, it's very vague. Like they don't actually, it's like just general guidelines. You're like, okay, like I don't really know what exactly I got wrong. And they have, it's like a weighted percentage or something, and they don't even say like what you have to get. Like I don't know how I scored my number. I don't know where that scored, if that was good or I just passed, or like it's just green, or I guess not. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know about ACRP, but for SOCRA, I know they have like 130 multiple choice questions, and like 30 of them are not scored, like unscored, because they're testing those. So I don't know how it works with that. And I know that I've noticed that there are some duplicate questions in the exam, and one of them kind of contradict another question. So I kind of like wrote a comment about that contradiction, because so that's why I'm guessing that particular question was the unscored one, because it was like stuff weird too.
I think we got that. You were breaking up a little bit, Putri, but I think I got that there. So just to summarize for those of you that were watching the feed here, there were some test questions in the exam, and so the score might be out of 100, but there were 130 questions. I don't know if that's the same thing for the ACRP exam or not.
It is.
Okay, interesting. No, I know that SOCRA does post that there's a 70%. They post the pass rates for each of the years, and it seemed like 71, 72, 70 around in there. So I would say, you know, there's a 70% pass rate with SOCRA exam. So, and I didn't see that with ACRP. Maybe they have it somewhere, but I didn't notice it. Okay.
Just wanted to add, Jean, could I just add with regards to the passing scores? Everybody should look at the ACRP handbook because it gives you all the information like preparation, your room setup, and it also has an area about exam scores, and they do a scaled score. So they take a raw score, which is a question is equal to 1 point that's answered correctly, and then they scale it. So the special number is 600 that you have to get above, and if below, then you don't pass. And so that's all the information you get with regards to your exam scores. Thanks, Jean.
Okay. Somebody from the audience has asked, are there multiple choice questions where the options are all of the above, none of the above, or both, etc.? Anybody want to answer that?
I am very confident that there are none because I was very worried about that one aspect. But I don't recall one question that had all of the above or anything like that, because those are the ones I always get wrong.
Okay, so
The SOCRA has it.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
SOCRA has it. Yeah, it's annoying, but yeah. It's the tricky question for me.
Yeah, but they're not too bad. Like sometimes it was very obvious, or they would just have some crazy, like C was so crazy. You're like, well, it's not all of the above. And then you can knock off 2 of them.
But if you're tired and stressed and you've been spit out of the exam, or you have the dog trying to claw at the door, I mean, you know, like you're in your home environment and you've got kids knocking, it might not be the obvious, like you need to really be able to find a clean environment where you can focus and block all that out. And okay, I'm seeing no more questions on maybe one more on the Q&A, just checking. Nope, that was the one. Okay, I'm going to move into my favorite section, which is the rapid fire. And I wanted to know if you would like to tell us 2 quips or 2 hot tips that you think are absolutely essential for everybody that's considering writing the professional development exam. What are the successful hot tips for certification? And the really needs to knows, 2 each. And I'm going to start with Tracy.
First one, exam for ACRP-CP, totally doable. Do not stress. It's day to day, so all good. And then the second piece is when you do those ACRP modules, pull out the themes. It will guide you on many questions. And good luck.
Okay, and Chelsea.
Yeah, my tips would be to use the ACRP learning management system because I found that really helpful. And again, you can get access to that through there's information on how to gain access to that on the Clinical Trials BC website. You just have to email someone and then they give you access to it, and it's free. So that's great. And then the other thing was that there was a lot of questions on the E6 guidelines on good clinical practice, and quite a few questions on adverse events and serious adverse events. And I think there was a point in the filmed session through Clinical Trials BC about them trying to ask you if it's like severe adverse event or serious adverse event, and they definitely asked me that question. So.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah,
I put that in there.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Tara.
First, congratulations on taking the step to certify. It was a long time coming for me. I would suggest you just bite the bullet and book your exam early. Make sure you have time in case anything goes wrong or you need more time to rebook. During the studying period, I suggest you create your own questions like Jessica had done with initially to build the program, and to give back to Clinical Trials BC and donate those questions so future people looking to certify can have an even bigger resource to pull from.
Thank you for that comment, Tara. We really appreciate that Jessica created the class marker, and that we've got a lot of questions in there now, and we're going to start reviewing them. So Jessica's volunteered to help with that. So, and get certification hours for that, or professional development points. Okay, Jessica.
So my tip would be for a lot of people is just book the exam. I met a lot of people who've tried to study ahead, but you won't study until you book the exam. You need that little bit of pressure to get you going, and just kind of take it one day at a time and make a little study plan. So you, especially if you're doing this ACRP, because the FDA material is a bit of a slog and it's pretty boring. You just want to break it up a little and do a little every day.
Okay, and Tatiana, your top 2 hot tips.
Just remember, there is no trick questions. I think that this was the biggest one for me. Remember, there is no trick questions, and stay calm. Enjoy. You are on the right path.
Okay, and Robin, hot tips.
Yeah, I'd say as you're going through the materials, just visualize how that plays out in your regular role in real life, and that'll help you remember it, because it should make complete sense. And then I'd familiarize yourself now with your recertification requirements, and then I'd even build a tracker now to track your ongoing education with all the bits of information you're going to need when it comes for time for recertification. You can just plug it in. You're not going to be going back looking for your training records.
No one has brought that up before, so I'm really glad you mentioned that. Everybody's doing that? Everybody nodding? Yes. Okay, and Putri, any hot quick tips?
Practice questions, really helpful to do to get used to this, the questions. Second, get to know the historical documents. Like, those are like some easy points right there, I would say. Like, know about the Nuremberg Code, the Bellman Report, the Declaration of Helsinki, and like what do they establish? Because it's easy and like it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, those are my 2 points.
Right, thank you, Putri. Okay, well, I'd like to thank our viewing audience today for your presence and participation and all your great questions. Clinical Trials BC supports clinical research professionals working in academic-based BC research sites to achieve professional certification. And achieving certification demonstrates that you have met or exceeded the quality standards required for the industry and have validated your competence. So certification also demonstrates a level of professionalism, as you can see from all the people here, and it indicates a commitment to quality standards. So the answer to your question, ask us, is yes, get certified. So it's going to become the standard and the norm. Thank you to all of our panelists today. You did indeed make it sound inspiring, and we very much appreciate your time and your expertise and your enlightenment on today's topic. If the audience has more questions on certification, you can reach us here at Clinical Trials BC, or you can speak to the graduates in your institution. And I'm sure that they'll inspire you and give you other hot tips, and probably even if you meet them for coffee, maybe they'll give you some extra stuff. I'd like to have a special thank you to our producer, Nando, who is again the Communications and Education Coordinator here at Clinical Trials BC. Nan's going to highlight some of the upcoming events and provide you with the contact information on how to get hold of us.
Right, thank you very much, Jean. So, hello, and I would like to thank you, Jean, for hosting today's events, and also to our wonderful panelists today for joining us for this really productive and interesting conversation. Just a few things before we conclude our session today. This webinar was recorded, and the recording of this session will be sent to you by email and uploaded to our website. Also, in the email that will be sent out to you, there will be an evaluation survey, and we ask you to complete it. It just only takes 2 minutes, and we appreciate your contribution and feedback to us. The survey result will help us evaluate the impacts of the sessions and also inform us for future programmings. So if you haven't connected with us on social media, we encourage you to do so. And also, I noticed that today we discovered so many new things and had a really good conversation. So I encourage you to keep the conversation going beyond today. You can do that by going to our website at clinicaltrialbc.ca. If you have any questions regarding to today's sessions or about the certification funding program, please email us at info@clinicaltrialbc.ca. You can also follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. We have Twitter at ClinTrialBC, and also we looking forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn also. If you haven't marked your calendar, this is a great chance for you, because during this fall and winter, there's gonna be a lot of sections will be held by Clinical Trial BC. I would like to introduce you in October 13, Clinical Trial BC AIPP program Audit and Inspection Preparedness workshop will be hosted by Vancouver Coastal Health Research Institute. You can register to this session by following this link at vchri.ca/AIPP refresher. Also, during November, there will be a release of AIPP version 8. You can book your session and workshop through our education at info@clinicaltrialbc.ca. And for the SS series webinar, there's going to be more events coming up in November, January, March, and May. Please stay tuned for more updates. It will be coming soon, and we will acknowledge you on our social media and also website. With the announcement of ICH EHR1 document was announced yesterday for the approval, Clinical Trial BC will be offering educational sessions on the document topics, including general considerations in clinical trials updates and overview, critical to quality factors, quality by design, quality management system, quality-related risk management, and patient participations and engagement in clinical trials. These sessions will be held from November to March 2022. And if you would like to have more information about the date and time, you can scan the QR code here. And if you have any question, there will be an instruction how you can book your sessions. And that's everything for today's event. Thank you very much for attending our session today, and we're looking forward to having you in our future events. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.